This episode is brought to you by CBS All Access. If you don't already subscribe to CBS All Access, please use our affiliate link by going to talkthroughmedia.com/CBS. Using our affiliate link gives us a little credit, which helps us to keep bringing you great content. U.S. residents only. Hello and welcome to episode 44 of the Star Trek Discovery podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Ruthie.
And today we will be covering both the Star Trek Discovery trailer that was at New York Comic Con and the first short trek, which was season 2, episode 1, titled Q&A. That was written by Michael Chabon and directed by Mark Pellington. And the description is Ensign Spock's, played by Ethan Peck, first day aboard the USS Enterprise doesn't go as planned when he and number 1, Rebecca Romijn, are unexpectedly stuck together in a turbo lift. It is rated, and I don't really understand why, TVMA with language, and had the air date of October 5th, 2019. So
interesting about the language.
I don't really understand why it's TVMA. I didn't really see anything that would require that. I don't know.
I don't remember that either, but
Is there something mature about I am a very model of a modern major general?
No. I am the very model of a modern major general.
I don't know, but
animal and mineral.
But anyway,
that was pretty awesome.
So we will be covering that, and we'll also be covering the Discovery trailer. But before we do that, I just want to mention that you should have in your feed the very first episode of the Star Trek Picard cast.
Yay!
Yes, in fact, we have finally released that. So Ruthie and I recorded that on Friday night, and it was a lot of fun to finally get that out of our systems.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't really think we would have a lot to say. We were wrong.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't like a super, super long episode, but it was, long enough.
We still had plenty to say.
Yeah. So that first episode is going to be in the Star Trek Discovery podcast feed. But to get the rest of them, you're going to need to subscribe to the Star Trek Picard cast. And we will have a link to that on the Facebook group in the Discovery feed. And also, if you go to talkthroughmedia.com, there will be links there to subscribe. But there is, of course, a process when you submit the first episode. There is a little bit of a lag. Usually it takes a couple of days before they finally have it available in Apple Podcasts and all of the other apps that use Apple Podcasts, which most do actually use that. But Spotify is a separate process. And there's a few others that use separate processes. But anyway, we will have that available to you on the Star Trek Discovery podcast feed. But like I say, to continue to get those episodes, you need to go to subscribe to the other podcasts, which we hope that most of you will do.
Yes.
And that, if you haven't been keeping aware, the first episode of the Star Trek Picard show will begin on January 23rd, 2020. And the other thing I should mention is if you go to StarTrekPicard.com, guess who owns that? We
Yay!
do.
It's us.
Yes. And in fact, And in fact, the artwork now, I have modified it so it says StarTrekPicard.com, because I was thinking about it. It's like, yeah, we need to publicize that. So so right on the artwork, if you see StarTrekPicard.com, you'll know. Just go there and you can sign up that way. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about the trailer, shall we?
All right, let's do it.
All right. So we're kind of doing this from off the cuff. I don't really have any notes about it, but what stuck out for you about the trailer?
It seemed like Michael was very separate from the crew. Like every time they showed her, she's with oh crap, that guy whose name I can't remember. I can't remember his character's name either.
Yeah, Cleveland Booker or Book.
That's right, Book. I can't remember the actor's name, but I like him a lot. He was in Falling Water, a show that was very unique, I thought, and canceled way before its time because the masses don't like unique, hard to understand things.
David Ajala is his name.
Yes, that's his name, David Ajala, and he was pretty spectacular. But anyway, yeah, she's with him a lot, which I'm kind of like, what's going on there? Why is she with him and not the rest of the Discovery crew? Like, what's happening? So that's what I noticed. That was the thing that stuck out to me, I guess. It's been a little while since I've seen this. I've slept since then. But that's probably the biggest thing.
It seems like a year has passed for at least Burnham, because we see like kind of a montage of shots of her and her hair grows out, so that we see her with very long hair, and we actually see that when it looks like she is on board Discovery, she has long hair. So that's one thing I noticed. And another thing that I noticed, of course, was the big flag that got unfurled. And it was obviously a Federation flag, but it looked a lot different than the Federation flag that we normally see. There were a lot less stars in it. And that one gentleman who was I don't know if that was like a Federation outpost or what have you. So it seems like things did not go well for the Federation over those 930 years. How things went bad, we don't know. I wonder if there's going to be something that happens in the Picard show that has lasting effects for the next 800 and some odd years.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Could be.
And the other thing that I'm struck by is if there is something like this, we could see use again of the Red Angel, because I could totally see Burnham going back in time to trying to correct whatever it is that happened. Much like her mother did. I wonder if her mother is in this season or not. We didn't see her in the trailer that I caught. And I guess the other thing we see is a lot of alien species from Star Trek series of past. Like, for example, there is this one shot where we have, I think there's a couple of Andorians, and they're actually diverse Andorians, because one has like really dark blue skin and another one has kind of like bluish green skin. And we see a Cardassian, we see a Lurian like Morn, which is cool. And we see someone that's possibly human, at least they look human. We also see some shots where it looks like Burnham is in the wading pools on Trill, and we see several Trills in the scene. And then there's also, we see some scenes with Tilly and Saru, and they look like they're on some kind of away mission as well. And we see a little bit of Giorgio fighting, which if you've got Michelle Yeoh, she's going to be fighting somewhere.
Or at least she should be.
She should be. And I'm trying to think what else that struck me about it. Obviously, it's a very short trailer. There's not much to see yet. But
which makes me think that it's going to be a while before the show comes back.
Yeah,
which is sad, but at the same time, we've got Picard to hold us over, so
Yeah, what I'm thinking is going to happen is that we will get the season of Picard, which starts on the 23rd, and that will take it to, let's see, where will that take us to? So the last episode would be March 26th.
Awesome.
And that would assume that we will maybe get short treks starting again after that. And then maybe after a few months of short treks, although that hasn't been announced.
I don't know if we'll get short treks in between.
Yeah.
I think they're giving us all the short treks we're going to get. That's kind of,
maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Or the other option, and I don't think this is what's going to happen, is we could end up with lower decks. So, but we'll see. I imagine that Discovery won't happen directly after Picard. There'll be a little bit of a break, maybe a month, maybe a couple of months. I don't know. But I expect that Discovery will return probably in, the summer, or it may wait until September. I'm hoping it's not going to be that long, but we'll see. And I don't think that they've announced a premiere yet of Lower Decks. So I know that there is a presentation at Destination Star Trek in Birmingham, England, next weekend. So we could hear more then. We're recording this on Sunday, October 20th. So like I say, we may have more information about that when we record the Short Trek episode 2, which we've already seen, but we're not going to cover that right now due to a technical issue. Yeah. So we don't have all of our feedback and can't get it right now. So anyway.
Because someone is stupid.
Yes. The book.
Facebook is stupid.
We are having issues with the Book of Face right now.
That's right. Because they're dumb right now. They're on my list. It's not a good list to be on.
Yes. Much like Edward Larkin.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. We would love to talk to you about Edward Larkin, but we had an Edward Larkin incident happen to us.
Yes. Pretty much. Yeah. So anyway, I think if you have any, I'll say, if you have any feedback that you would like to give us on the trailer, we'd love to hear it. And let's now talk about the first short trek of season 2, which is titled Q&A, which we already gave all the descriptions. What did you think?
I loved it. I thought it was great.
I loved it too. Did you have a rating?
Sure I did. Let me come up with one right now on the spot.
That's what I'm going to do.
I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10 smiling Spocks. That's right. That's my thing.
I will give it a 9 Unas.
Ooh.
Yes, because it was confirmed in writing, and I think Spock had asked her the question if her name is Una. And we have all the evidence now that we needed to say that. Number one, her real name is Una, which of course means number one. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. We did get a couple of other listener ratings. You want to give those listener ratings?
All right. We have a rating from James the Augmented Sailor, who says Q&A is 8 cheerful facts about the square of the hypotenuse. Nothing flashy and an interesting dialogue.
And LT from NC gives it an 8.75 out of 10. Synchronized. Fascinating. All right. So we have some yeses.
Yes.
James the Augmented Sailor says Spock and number one short. And then he says, more visuals of the Enterprise. We get to see the transporter room. Yes, we did.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that was awesome. We have LT from NC who says, so what did I like? You got number one being the character we saw in The Cage, a smart proto-Vulcan who could go full-bore deep science geek with Spock, who we all had that expectation of. It was more of what we liked in those shots from season 2 and a touch more layering to show the character we expected.
Yep, I would agree. Do you have any yeses?
I'm not sure if I have like specific yeses, but I liked I just liked seeing brand new Spock fresh off the transport ship from the Academy, I guess. Wet behind the ears.
Yep. I would say that there were a couple of tie-ins to former episodes of Star Trek, not just of the Cage and, things that you might expect, but also there was like a tie-in to Disaster from TNG, because it was kind of a similar thing where Picard and the kids from the science fair or whatever get stuck in the turbo lift.
Yeah.
So that was cool, and we get to see a little more of Spock and number one, and kind of explains how Spock gets less shouty and takes on more of the traits of number one. Now I wonder at this point if he completely understood her point, though, if that was something that
I'm not sure.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to our nose. No! Every time I hear that.
Mm-hmm. All right. James, the Augmented Sailor, says, makes me long for a Pike's Enterprise show even more.
LT from NC says, my negatives were pretty simple and minor in the grand scheme of things. I am not a fan of the roller coaster Six Flags over Enterprise turbolift shots. It's a big nitpick, I know, but the ship shouldn't have that much free space inside of it. It makes for a better shot, but come on, no starship is that hollow inside. I could let that pass if it was a station or some other type of orbital platform. Plus, you wouldn't need to rappel to it, just go one deck up and open the door. LT, I have to agree with you 100% on this one. It's kind of silly, and they started this in Discovery, and they've now kept this going on Enterprise. It's almost like these starships are built like Doctor Who's TARDIS or something.
Yeah.
They are much bigger in the starship than we see on the outside. So I don't know. I don't like it either, but I guess one of the things that I've been listening to a reality competition podcast lately, and it's called America's Next Top Podcaster. And one of the judges on there has been trying to drill into contestants, commit to the bit. And I would say that the producers and the visual supervisors, whatever, of Star Trek Discovery are committing to the bit of the elevators being in these vast caverns of space. Because I think now we've seen this 3 times, and it makes no sense to me now, and it made no sense to me when we first saw it. So,
I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make sense, but I just I guess I just go with it because
yeah. Then he says, my second negative was Spock's hair. Again, a nitpick, but that was the bowliest bowl cut ever.
That's what he had. He had a bowl cut. Come on.
He did.
It was the 60s.
Well, apparently that was originally Leonard Nimoy's hair, but it is pretty obvious that it is not Ethan Peck's hair, because his hair is naturally curly. So unless he, changes his hairstyle, which he'll hopefully do for the Star Trek 1701 or Star Trek Pike or Star Trek Enterprise, the early years, or whatever they call it. Star Trek, the early years. or something. I'm willing that into existence right now.
Speaking our truth to the universe.
Yes. I think we will eventually get something, and it will be more than just short treks, because
I hope so.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they modify the Section 31 show and turn it into, or at least partially, a Pike Enterprise show. If they can't do something else, I would think that that's what they would do. Just give us more of Pike and the Enterprise in that show. But we'll see.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like you said, we'll see.
Yeah, that's how we.
I hope for more Ensign Mount as well. I mean, he was amazing, and we didn't get enough Una, and I like the Una Spock interaction. So
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I think you're gonna have to come to peace with the bowl cut though, because we can't rewrite history. Sorry, folks.
I agree. What nose do you have?
I don't have any nose.
Okay.
Because I am not very no. I mean, I am sometimes, but this time I didn't find anything wrong with it. Like, it was 15 minutes. Good grief. What's not to like?
The one thing I can take this, and you're going to hear more of this in the next short trek that we cover, where I am of a split personality, and I will give the fan me, the sensible me, the me that you normally hear, and then the nitpicking me. So the nitpicking Brian would say, they shouldn't have those uniforms at this point, because it's too early in the timeline to have uniforms that look like this.
That was awesome. I can just imagine you pushing your glasses up, even though you don't wear glasses.
I don't wear glasses. I should, by the way. My reading vision is going down to crap, and that's something
that's what happens when you turn 40, folks.
Yeah, and I turned 40 12 years ago.
Your vision deteriorates, and it just keeps on getting bad.
Yeah,
just like the rest of your body.
Oh, yeah, you're not kidding.
Aging is not for the faint of heart.
So, I mean, that is the one thing I could say, is that they shouldn't have these uniforms at this point. But to me, that's minor. That's very, very minor. I mean, we don't know exactly. We know that this, because
they could have those uniforms. I mean, we don't know how often they change them. Understandably, this was I mean, how many years was Spock on Enterprise before the original series?
Yeah. Well, before the Cage, we don't know. Like, and he's an ensign here, but.
So how long does it take to get from ensign to what, lieutenant commander?
Well, he was lieutenant in the Cage. So, I mean, I'm thinking.
Yeah, but the first episode of Enterprise of Star Trek that ever aired, he was what?
Lieutenant commander. Yes.
Lieutenant commander. So how long does it take to go from ensign to lieutenant commander? 4 or 5 years?
Probably longer.
I don't know how many ranks are in between ensign and lieutenant commander.
And Spock is an exceptional officer. We know that. So it is conceivable that maybe it didn't take him very long to go from ensign to lieutenant. He may have did some things to stand out, and, maybe over the course of, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. I don't know.
Well, I do know that Star Trek takes liberties sometimes. I mean, most shows take liberties with command and rank and all that kind of stuff. Right. But in real life...
Unless you're Ensign Kim.
That's right. Oh gosh, Ensign Kim. Poor Ensign Kim. In real life, though, it's time of service in a particular rank.
Right.
Before you. I mean, yeah, sometimes you might have a battlefield promotion or whatever, but that's not very common. I mean, you would have to, the entire armed forces above you would have to explode for you to actually get that battlefield promotion, I think. I don't know. I mean, there's always someone above you who's there and can come in and take over. You might get acting, like an acting blah, blah, blah. But as soon as you are returned from whatever you're doing, there probably is no longer an acting blah, blah, blah for you. You're just back to what you were. That's my that is the extent of my knowledge base when it comes to the U.S. Armed Forces. I know my ex-husband used to complain about that. Like, there's no way he would have been like we were watching Starship Troopers. There's no way he would have been promoted from, I don't know what it was, whatever low rank he was, to colonel. He was like, no way! So, that has stuck in my brain ever since then. Every time I see someone get a super quick battlefield promotion that skips like 3 ranks. It's like, what just happened? So anyway, I do know that you have to have time in your rank for that to happen. And so I'm guessing 5 years is a total shot in the dark, because I have no idea how many ranks are in between ensign and lieutenant commander. I mean, it might be ensign 1, ensign 2, and they just drop the 1 and the 2. They just say ensign, because I know that's the case for private. Right. There's a private 1 and a private 2, and then there's private first class. So they don't say private 1 or private 2. They just say private. So,
right. Yeah, as far as I know, I think it goes from ensign to lieutenant junior grade to lieutenant commander to captain. But I don't know if there's anything in between. I've never certainly heard of anything in between.
Oh, I don't have. I mean, if that's the naval rank, then that's ostensibly what it is, because I'm pretty sure that all of Star Trek rankings are based on naval ranks. And so that means... Right. I mean, he's probably got like a year as ensign and 2 years as ensign junior grade or lieutenant junior grade, and then maybe 2 or 3 years as lieutenant before he's a lieutenant commander. So right, 5 or 6 years, I would say, that he's on that ship doing those things. So you could have that uniform for that amount of time, is what I'm trying to say, to bring it back around to the point.
It's a minor nitpick. I'm not really concerned about it. I know that there are some people that just get their panties in a twist over every little thing. And
but you are not one of those people.
I'm not unless I, inhabit this part of me. So
unless you're backed into a corner.
Well, no, it's just, it's something that I noticed, and yet it's not a deal breaker for me, because they've changed visually the whole Enterprise, and for that matter, the uniforms are different anyway. So to me, it's like, if that's the worst thing that you're going to bring up about this episode, that's pretty weak. So
yeah,
that's my take on it. All right. So with that, let's move on to our favorite character.
Hello, this is Captain Tilly. What the hell? What the hell? Hold your horses.
Yes. And yes, you will still hear those for the short treks, although we have something brand new for Picard.
That's right.
Yeah. And if you don't know what that is, you'll have to listen to episode 1. So I'm not going to play it here.
That's right.
All right. James, the augmented sailor, had one hold your horses. In fact, that's the only one that we got. There's that much of a void within the Enterprise housing network of turbolifts. It's visually stunning, but not practical or tactical. Huge weakness in battle. Yeah. Similar to what LT said. Yeah. Got to agree. Definitely got to agree.
Yeah. It doesn't make much sense. I don't think about it, but you guys are right.
Do you have any hold your horses?
Nope. I just enjoyed it.
Upjohn, who is obviously, I don't know if she's the chief engineer or not, but didn't seem great in her job.
Oh, well, we don't know what was going on in her life. All we saw was the Q&A part of it.
Yeah.
She was probably doing everything she could. We don't have any idea what went wrong with the turbo lift. All we know.
Neither did she.
Well, I mean, I have found it to be true that things that happen that are crazy are generally unscripted. There's nothing you can do to prepare for.
Yes.
That happens to me in real life. Like, oh, this is a new problem. I've never seen this before. I don't know how to fix this. So that's just the way life is sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Upjohn did anything wrong. It's not her fault. She didn't make the ship.
True. Maybe the same engineer that put the hologram communication system in worked on the turbo lifts.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. My thought, the other thing I was going to bring up is it that freaky? Her, thing about singing musicals?
What do you mean freaky?
Well, she says that you have to, you have to keep, how did she put it?
Keep an open mind?
No. She said you have to, don't let your freaky show or something. And
I don't know that I would say that it's freaky. I would say that it's probably, she used that word obviously, but I don't think that she meant it in the same way that I think maybe you're thinking about it, because it's not that it's freaky. It's just that it's like letting your hair down. And that's something, as we saw with Picard, that officers in charge don't do. That
is true. It is very Picardish of her.
And it's not very, we must always hold ourselves apart kind of a thing. And once you start clowning around, it makes your underlings feel like you are one of them, that you're human. But obviously her goal is to portray sort of an otherness from them. So that she is basically so that she stands apart from them, pretty much, I guess, is what I think. So yeah.
Well, I think that that's probably true. It doesn't seem that that's exactly similar to what Pike does, though. He seems very jovial with the crew, and he's got a sense of humor, and he shows it.
He does, but isn't Una technically the XO?
She is.
So I would think that it's the XO's job to be that way.
Is she like the vice principal?
I guess, yeah. She's like, mom is the one you go to when you're in trouble. Dad is the one that you don't want to find out.
Maybe
so. Pike is mom and she's dad.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, maybe like in Next Gen, the roles were kind of reversed. Where Picard is more like this number one or Una. And Riker is more like Pike.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
No, I hadn't thought of it that way, but it makes sense now that we say that.
And maybe that's just because that's how Picard feels and Riker feels differently. And maybe, ultimately we saw in the first episode, he didn't really know how they were going to get along or whatever, because their command styles were completely different. But maybe it works because of the differences, because they have two different command styles. So that way, if you don't feel comfortable around mom, you can go to dad, basically. Or if you don't feel comfortable around dad, you can go to mom,
Why does number one go by number one and not Una? What's going on there?
I have no idea.
It's kind of odd, but not anything that would dock the episode for. What else I'm just thinking off the top of my head, so I don't have anything else written down, but I would wonder how many questions we didn't get to hear.
Yeah.
Because I want to hear those. I would like to hear like a deleted scene or something from this to hear other questions that got asked. And in general, I would say that I liked it more on the second watch than the first. The first, and this is something I've noticed with a lot of the short treks, that I find it the first time I watch it, it seems kind of not uninspiring, but like there's not much to it. And when I go back and watch it again, I appreciate it more the second and the third, and 17th watch. So I haven't watched this 17 times, but I'm just saying.
Not yet.
Not yet. Eventually. because that's how I roll.
It's coming.
It's coming. All right, so let's move on to feedback and open hailing frequencies. All right, our first is from James, the Augmented Sailor. You want to read that one?
Alrighty. James says, I enjoyed this short. It was fun and very different than really anything we've ever seen in Trek. With its writing style, some of the lines were just random small talk, i.e., do you like eggplant?
Yeah.
Did anyone else get a Tarantino vibe from some of the conversation without the colorful metaphors, of course? It really makes me curious if there was some ghost writing going on here and really stirs the desire to see what his Trek would be like. I enjoyed the tension between Spock and Number One. It starts off very awkward and builds to an almost sexual tension by the end. I can just see from this scene how much of an impact she has on Spock's career going forward when it comes to how he carries himself as an officer going forward. I can't wait to hear everyone else's thoughts.
I didn't get a Tarantino vibe, but I get
Getting at
what you're saying there. Kind of a casual conversation kind of thing that Tarantino does in a lot of his films.
Right.
So that I get. It is interesting to note that Michael Chabon, who's of course the showrunner of Star Trek Picard, wrote this short trek, and he pitched it as a 2-part short trek, with the second part being the last day of Number One on Enterprise. And I'm not sure what happened with that. He had hoped that that would eventually get shot maybe in the next group of short treks or something, but they didn't shoot that this time around. So I'm curious what that would have been like, because we know at some point she leaves. We don't know if she leaves before Kirk arrives, or and Pike leaves, or if it happens before Pike leaves. So it could have happened at the same time, like she disembarks the same time Pike does, or before. We don't know, but we know that when Kirk arrives, Spock is the first officer. So
right.
And strangely enough, is wearing gold and not blue, which if you see Where No Man Has Gone Before, he's wearing, in that one episode only, he's wearing gold. So
interesting.
Yeah. I wonder what maybe one of the officers that didn't move on, like I can't remember her name, Sally Kellerman or something. Maybe she was the chief science officer or something. I don't think so, but I know that she was in blue. But I think Gary Mitchell was in like the equivalent to red shirt. I think, at that time they were copper shirts. But anyway. Next is Derek from Switzerland via Ireland. I didn't know what to say about that, but I know that he lives in Switzerland, but he's
so he's Irish.
Yes.
He lives in Switzerland.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I want to try an Irish accent.
I'm not going to try it. Nice joke for people who recognize accents, with the engineer being from Wales. So that's an Englishman, Malcolm Reed, a Welsh woman, a Scotsman, Scotty obviously, and an Irishman, Miles O'Brien, who have been engineer for the Enterprise. Also, if you watch the Star Trek episode of Futurama, you know how Welshie died. Smiley face. I'd have to go back to see that one. But just to correct you, Malcolm Reed was a tactical officer, I believe. He was not the engineer on the NX-01. That was, of course, Trip Tucker.
True.
Yeah. And he has an accent too, but that's a Florida accent. So.
Oh, gracious me.
Yeah. What do you call it? A northern Florida accent, like the southern, because a lot of people in Florida, like Miami and whatnot, and some in Tampa, there's no southern kind of accent, and I know that because I currently live in Tampa. But yeah, but I still do hear that accent around here from time to time. When I lived in Jacksonville many years ago, though, I heard that kind of Florida accent a lot. And that was when Enterprise was first on. So anyway, moving on.
Oh.
Shall we do?
That's me.
Yeah.
Fred from the Netherlands says, seen it once. Probably need more views to appreciate it more. Loved to see Ethan Peck and Rebecca Romaine back. The technobabble was too much. It was not so funny as it probably should have been. Sorry to be so critical, but it is the reflection of my disappointment. Hope the next one will be better. Greets, Fred from the Netherlands. I'm sorry you were disappointed. I loved it.
I am too. And I told Fred to watch it again, that I didn't like it that much and liked it a lot more on the second watch. So I don't think I heard back from him to know that whether he did or not. But I guess maybe he's not in the US anymore. I don't know. All right. Next is, and our last bit of feedback is from LT from NC. He says, no matter what the internet hate machine says about him, Ethan Peck does a fine job of playing Spock, and he has a delivery and the little things that make me think of the original. I'd even say his voice was much more Nimoy-like in this. I watched it twice, and her name each time, but who was the engineer on the intercom? Scotty's mom? I mentioned it already. That was Upjohn.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Apparently she's Welsh, not Scottish. So
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I suppose she could be Scotty's mom if Scotty's mom were Welsh.
Yeah, who knows? And I will leave that in Derek's capable hands because, not being from the UK, I am not as good as being able to discern the various accents that are within, Great Britain.
Dialects.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not very good at it either, but I can recognize some of them.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I can recognize.
I know they're different.
I can recognize, and there's I've heard different variations of the Irish accent. Like there's like a strong Irish accent, and then there's kind of like a much weaker, almost American kind of, not exactly American, but like not quite as
softer.
Yeah, softer. Of course, the Scottish accent is.
Right. Need to help you out with that.
Yeah, the Scottish accent is very.
Dig yourself in too deep.
Yeah.
It's not American by any stretch. He did not mean that. He meant to say a softer Irish accent. Easier for Americans to understand. How about that?
Yes. And I want to just say that I'm not even American. So there we go.
That's
Although I've been here now.
You are North American.
Yes. I've been here almost 20 years at this point. 19 plus. So.
Well, when are you gonna get naturalized, huh?
Once we are not taking that money and doing something else with it, which seems to happen. So I really wanted to get that done before the election, and I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to.
Don't know.
Yes, there are many different accents. There are many different accents in the US and Canada, for that matter.
Oh yeah.
And I've gotten fairly good at discerning them. But
right.
I can
almost for sure tell you where someone is from if they talk.
Yeah, that's the trick. They have to talk. If they don't talk, then you can't tell.
Who knows?
Anyway, he continues. He says, I liked it and ended up watching Escape Artist again since it is right next to QA on the playlist. Excited to be back in Trek mode. Eager to hear you guys again. I missed you, Ruthie.
Oh, I missed you too.
I'll say.
Aww.
So I'm off to have another jipper.
If I had any money, I'd be sticking jippers on a beach. Delicious chipper.
What a delicious chipper.
And finish writing up my TWD feedback.
Awesome.
And we should mention that LT released some videos just to us and Kyle and Mark from the Walking Dead talk through, kind of thanking us so much for the content that we provide on Talk Through Media. And he also did something for the Walking Dead talk through, which was an exercise in showing something that comes up a lot on those podcasts about how the skull is not that easy to penetrate, yet we see the heroes on those two shows being able to like put a knife through a skull with ease. And so what he did was he took a coconut and tried to put a knife through a coconut, which did not work. And then he tried a hammer, which did work. And then he also tried a 22 caliber pistol, which also worked, but didn't go clear through. So all things that we see happen many times on The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So I thought those were great, but not sure if we can post those up on the Facebook group LT. So we haven't done that yet, but let us know and we will share them. That's it for feedback that we got for Q&A. Do you have any other notes that you want to bring up?
No, just that I really enjoyed it. I don't know. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a little different from how I thought it would be based on the, I guess, trailer that I saw. But I really liked the, I cannot remember the name of the, Gilbert. I know it's Gilbert and Sullivan because it's what Jean-Luc referenced in
The Pirates of Penzance?
Yes, thank you. It's the Pirates of Penzance. And the show that Jean-Luc sings to Data at the beginning of Star Trek Insurrection.
Right.
That is, I believe, from the same musical.
Yes.
If my memory serves, which apparently it does.
Yes.
So I thought that was really cool. I was like, oh my gosh, she's singing Modern Major General. Which, I mean, is a very tongue twister. And I really also enjoyed the fact that Spock knew it as well. So I thought, well, this is so cool. Everybody likes the Pirates of Penzance. Unfortunately, I watched it and I did not. I love musicals, but I watched the Pirates of Penzance and I was like, I wish they would have picked a different musical, one that I really like. But hey, it's cool that they were doing musicals anyway.
Yeah, and that was also referenced in, I mentioned Disaster. I did not mention the fact that Disaster also had the tie-in where Geordi is kind of auditioning for a role in Dr. Crusher's musical. And she has him sing, I am a very model of a modern Major General in that episode. It's a very short scene, but he does it there as well. So
very good.
Yeah. I was going to mention that earlier and I forgot. So thank you for reminding me.
You are welcome.
Yeah.
That's why we make a great team.
That's right. There was a note at the end of the episode and it said in memory of Dr. Robert Chabon. I guess he died recently and,
is that his dad?
Yeah, that's his dad. So he dedicated it to his father, and his father, I believe, died recently, and he kind of gave his dedication. I believe I read somewhere, but I cannot find it at this point, where Michael Chabon kind of spent the last few weeks or something with his father before he passed away. And that
was nice.
And that's part of the reason why he dedicated it to him. And I also want to say that he was also partially responsible for Michael Chabon's love of Star Trek. Like he introduced him to it.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a physician and lawyer. So, according to Wikipedia. So, don't know what kind of doctor or lawyer he was, but there are not a lot of people on this planet that were both a doctor and a lawyer.
Yeah, that's
that is a lot of book learning.
It's a lot of college.
A lot of college. A lot of exams. Yeah. So don't really need it too much, but I'll just say ship-wide announcement for our regular news. And there is a YouTube feature about the short that I will mention. It is posted in the Facebook group. So if you check there, you'll see a little short about it. And we see Ethan Peck and Rebecca Romaine talking about doing this short and how fun it was. And yeah, so that's about all we have to say. Now, okay, so we have some changes in how to contact us. Basically, everything has changed. So, Ruthie, why don't you take a stab at put your phaser on stun and tell people how to contact us.
Alrighty. To submit your feedback or connect with us, go to talkthroughmedia.com/feedback, where you can submit text or audio, or you can call 216-232-6146. You can also email us at StarTrekDiscovery@talkthroughmedia.com, or I don't really want to say that right now.
Yeah.
You can tweet us at Star Trek TTM. That is our current Star Trek or our podcast Twitter for Discovery. You can also tweet us at Picardcast.
Yes, for Picard.
For Star Trek Picard.
Yeah.
So you can tweet us at Star Trek TTM or at Picardcast if you want to talk about Star Trek.
Yes.
We normally have Facebook stuff, but we're having issues with Facebook right now. Facebook and us are on a break. I don't know how to say that. We are on a break with Facebook. That's right. We're on a break.
Yes.
And it's serious.
Yes. Should we explain it or no?
Yeah, we can explain it. We were testing some things out, trying to figure out how to link our affiliate link, and they banned us, basically. They said that we were spam, which we're not. So they're dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. So we changed our link. So if you belong to the Facebook group.
Changed a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we changed a lot of stuff, but that's not why.
We've been going changes.
What changed is we are now affiliates with CBS All Access. And if you have any objections to that, this is what I'll say. We love Star Trek Discovery. We love Star Trek Picard. We want to help people sign up so that they can watch it too and enjoy it with us. And what's wrong with that? We're not going to tell you that it's a wonderful thing and it's better than it is. It is what you need to watch Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard in the US. So I don't see a problem with that. I say you can help out the podcast, help out Ruthie and me. And let's face it, we want to go to Star Trek Las Vegas next year. Click the link, sign up, and help us get there.
Yeah.
They'll give us you'll have to pay nothing extra. They'll pay us a little referral fee. That's all. And that helps get us to Star Trek Las Vegas and help pay the hosting fees and all of that as well. But what happened last night is I was testing the affiliate link, and somehow that triggered Facebook to say that we were spamming. I didn't post it in the Facebook group. I simply posted it in a message to Ruthie in Messenger. And somehow that caused Facebook to completely block us and block talkthroughmedia.com. You cannot find talkthroughmedia.com on anything in Facebook right now. And we're kind of upset about it. So
we are flabbergasted. We don't know what's happening or why they hate us suddenly.
So hopefully by the time that you hear this, everything will be restored and we won't have anything to complain about anymore. But I'm going to leave this in just to explain that to you because we think that it's wrong. And one link does not make you a spammer, especially when we're not trying to.
Especially when it's shared between two people.
Exactly.
Like we're not spamming each other.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like they're being overly harsh and overly cautious. Like that. Okay, this is completely off topic. I recently read this article about this security guard from the school who got fired for using a racial slur because a student said to him, a student was calling him the N-word, and he said to the student, "Don't call me the N-word." And of course, both people used the actual N-word. They didn't say N-word. And the security guard got fired because of it. And I think that's BS. And this sort of feels like that situation. Like it's like they have an all or nothing policy basically. And I'm like, you can't really, the world doesn't exist in black and white, people. You gotta have a little wiggle room.
It's probably worth, since you brought that up, it's probably worth bringing up the Walter Mosley thing.
Oh, the guy who was telling the story in the...
Yeah, because that was...
that was also kind of lame. And the guy, he's telling a story about his own life, and he used the N-word because someone called him the N-word, and he got fired because of it. Now, I think that's also BS, but,
Yeah,
apparently somebody was a sissy pants about it.
Yeah, so apparently the story was, this was posted to the Facebook group on September 7th, and it was originally posted in the New York Times, and then HollywoodReporter.com did some research, and they discovered that the story that he was telling, where basically the way that I understand it is he was discussing a story where he was talking to a police officer, and that police officer used the N-word to him, and he was explaining that to one of the other writers in the writer's room, but he was not using that directly. He was relating a story
that happened to him.
Yes.
He wasn't telling someone else's story.
Right.
He was telling a personal story.
From that, HR at CBS, I guess, called him, and he was pretty upset about that. And what they said is, we're not firing you for this, but in the future, don't use that word. And apparently he could use that word in a script, but he could not use that word in the writer's room or
talking about his own life.
Yeah.
Basically.
Now, part of this I understand, because I find that word offensive. I don't really like hearing it when other people use that word, whether they are African American or not.
Black. Not every black person is American.
Very true. Very true. Yes. So I don't like hearing that word, and I understand
either, but I imagine they don't like hearing it when people are using it against them, like as in a racial slur that a police officer used. I think this was back in the 60s or something, right? Wasn't he saying
something like that? Yeah,
it was a while ago. I mean, he's not a spring chicken, so he's had some stuff happen to him, and I feel like this is kind of adding insult to injury, saying we don't want to hear about your struggle.
Yeah. And that's my take on it, is that he's relaying a story, and that's one thing. Now, if he was using that in, casual language, I would understand why I would be offended. But the way that this was described, it just seems kind of crazy that this would even come up, and why.
It's the whole no tolerance policy. And I understand what you're trying to do with that whole no tolerance policy. But like I said, you can't, the world doesn't exist that way. You have to be able to use your judgment about what is a situation in which something is acceptable
Context.
Or not acceptable. Yeah, context is king. And I don't know. I feel like they're insulting him again by saying, we weren't there. We don't know what happened. We read the article and we made our, conclusions based on what we read in the article. But I feel like that's kind of, come on, man.
Yeah, and I think that he also probably reacted to the fact that the writer or whoever posted it to HR didn't talk to him directly,
Yeah.
you know?
Which is kind
But
of,
yeah, and
no.
I'm also, of that mind as well. I think that if you're going to have a problem with somebody, don't go to HR, go to the person that, said it and try to work it out. Don't try to escalate things.
Right. Or, I don't know. This is a problem, I think. And I have no idea how old the complainer was or whatever. Maybe the complainer was also an elderly person, not elderly person, but you know what I mean, of the same generation who didn't like, I don't know. I assume that the person was probably a young pipsqueak who was trying to hide behind anonymity to complain about something that maybe he or she really doesn't have any idea about.
Yeah.
That is a complete assumption. I have no idea what's going on. That possibly is not the case at all. But, and I think, that's a problem with people, is they like to hide behind the anonymity of the internet and sling these accusations or just be complete tools, and they feel powerful because no one knows who they are.
Right.
And I don't know if that's what's happened. I don't know the situation, but it smacks of that kind of, why didn't this person, if he or she didn't feel comfortable talking to him by themselves, why didn't they get a supervisor involved or someone from HR and talk to him and say, hey,
I think that's what happened though. They went to HR.
I thought it was anonymous.
Well,
they went to HR. That's not what I'm saying, though. They could go to that person instead of being anonymous. They could go to that person with an intermediary. I don't have any problem with having an intermediary because, maybe he or she really didn't feel, safe or comfortable confronting someone. I'm not always safe or comfortable confronting people. I don't necessarily enjoy confrontation. Right. But I don't know. And maybe HR took it too far. Maybe that person didn't mean for that to happen, but because of the context of the situation, HR decided to. Maybe that person just wanted to vent and HR took it too far. I don't know. But
right.
I don't know. I feel like that situation was exacerbated by an all or nothing type of policy, like a policy where there can't be any gray area or leeway. And anyway, that's what we're experiencing right now with Facebook, because Facebook thinks that we're spammers because we tried to use our affiliate link
in a private message.
That was not to anybody else. But if I had a problem with it, I could have reported it to Facebook. Right. But Facebook took it upon itself to decide for me what was spam. And I guess that's what irritates me, is because I don't need you to come in and protect me. I can protect myself. If I'm irritated about something, I can take my own actions if I need to. And that's pretty much what happened, is that Facebook came in and did all this stuff because of a private message between the two of us, something that they think is spam. So anyway.
And I get it if it was spam, but it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it was spam, I would have reported it to Facebook. And someone hacked my friend Brian's account and is spamming me.
And that's not what happened. It's crazy. So yeah, it's funny that this kind of has a context that we're dealing with right now. And it's unfortunate because, practically all of our interaction, we haven't been doing that much on Twitter, but maybe we're going to change that now because of this. I really have to start thinking about what, we're going to have to do going forward with this, because I don't feel like this was fair in any way. And when you ask for something to be put under review, which I did, there is no chance to give any explanation as to why you're putting it under review. You just request that it be put under review. And that by itself is insane. So
yeah, because who knows how long this review is going to take.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, more episodes of The Walking Dead are coming out, and that affects the ability to post these links to that group. On
Right.
Facebook.
And the worst part about it is we have a Picard podcast that's coming out. Normally what we do is we post a link to it in Facebook that lets our listeners know that are in the Facebook group, and our Facebook page now, which is facebook.com/talkthroughmedia, which I don't even care if you go there right now because we can't even use it to talk about anything on our site. You go there and there's like almost nothing there right now.
Yeah, all of the links are gone. So
Yeah, it's not just that the links were, removed and the posts stay up. The whole post is gone. So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
It's really extreme what Facebook has done in this case. And
This is in between our recording of the Picardcast episode and this episode. So that's it's like a period of 36 hours or something.
Yeah.
This craziness has happened suddenly. This has befallen us.
Yeah.
So if by the time you hear this, you still don't see any links from talkthroughmedia.com, please go to Facebook and tell them how dumb they're being.
Yeah. And to do that, if you're on your phone, in the upper right, there is a button that has 3 horizontal bars. You click that button and then you go down to report problem. And then you say,
and that's for Android users. I'll tell you what it is for Facebook users in a minute.
It's not the
iPhone
same
users.
for Apple?
It is not.
Oh, okay.
So go ahead. Carry on.
You click report a problem after you've clicked on that button with the horizontal lines, and then choose something isn't working. And then from that, you say that something is on the group as far as groups. And then you basically tell them that all posts to talkthroughmedia.com have been removed and they need to be restored. It's affecting the Facebook group. It's affecting our ability to interact with you and your ability to interact with us. It's not cool.
Yep.
So
cool. And if you're
I don't know how much of this I'll keep, but but yes, we're venting.
If you're an iPhone user, the 3 little lines are on the bottom right.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and it's under help and support, and then report a problem.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you say something is wrong. What does it say? Something isn't right.
Something isn't working.
Something isn't working.
And it also says shake phone to report a problem. You can turn that on or off.
Yeah, which
mine is off right now because sometimes I shake my phone and things happen and I'm like, no, I didn't mean that.
Yes. So anyway, we will get off this vent and say that another way you can support us is to share us on Twitter and Facebook eventually, hopefully. And if you subscribe to us, first of all, on any podcast client that you choose, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever, please subscribe to us in that podcast client. If you are able to do it, please give us a rating or review. And of course, if you have a friend that likes Star Trek Discovery, let them know about our podcast, share and retweet. And that will help get us more listeners. And we should also mention that we mentioned it on the Picard cast, but we finally have our new Patreon set up, and that's at patreon.com/Brian and Ruthie. We want to thank the current supporters of that: Clint McCullum, Kyle McAdams, Fred Petrie, who of course you know as Fred from the Netherlands, James Robbins, who is James the Augmented Sailor, and Lawrence Todd, also known as LT from NC. Thank you guys for supporting us. And if you would like to help support the podcast, help pay our hosting fees and all of that, and of course, get us to Star Trek Las Vegas, hopefully next year, go to patreon.com/Brian and Ruthie, and any donation is appreciated, but certain tiers basically have access to our Patreon content at the $5 level and above. To subscribe to our other podcast, of course, the Star Trek Picard cast, you got the first episode in this feed, but new episodes will only appear on the Star Trek Picard cast feed. So search for that, and you can find that on talkthroughmedia.com if you can't find it any other way. I'm still doing episodes of The Walking Dead talk through. We just went through a summer of Fear the Walking Dead, which was great podcasting and a really bad show. I shouldn't say really bad. The weird thing about Fear the Walking Dead this season is it had a lot of things going for it, yet the plot, the story was just terrible. And the characters, the stunts, the visuals were all really good, and just the writing was bad. And it was a lot of fun to cover because it was a lot of things to say about the show. But we're now doing The Walking Dead season 10, Mark and I, and Kyle will join us sometimes. And the first episode was great. Second episode, some people loved it. I didn't, neither did Mark. And this last episode, which we haven't released yet because it's actually airing tonight for AMC users, but I've seen it early because I have AMC Premiere, was amazing.
Ooh,
so
fancy.
It has, I'll just say, Ruthie, I know you've stopped watching the show, but since Angela Kang has taken over, it has gotten way better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No more of the Gimple and the Gimpleisms anymore. We have tight writing and good character work, and it's been really good. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I got burned too many times from Gimple, so I can't say whether or not I'll be back.
I know. I know. And I'm right there with you on that, because I think Gimple's hand is showing right now with Fear. And there's going to be a third show coming out very soon within the Walking Dead universe, and I've seen the trailers for that. Not really caring about it too much. It's a bunch of angsty teens, and I don't like angsty teens.
Oh.
You know, it's like The Walking Dead on CW, kind of.
Yeah.
Or what do they call them now? Freeform, you know.
Oh.
Yeah.
I do enjoy some of those shows, but sometimes
Yeah.
I start to feel my age. I'm like, oh gosh, what is happening here?
Yep. All right. So our next episode will be covering the Short Treks season 2, episode 2. We've already seen it. It is titled The Trouble with Edward. And we shall be recording that very soon. Hopefully we will get this issue with Facebook straightened out. But the problem is we can't record it right now because we don't have access to the feedback.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't come back, we'll have to figure out some way of getting your feedback again. But that's why we didn't record it today, because we had already put all of your feedback in our Google Doc, but we hadn't done it for the second short track, and now we can't access it anymore. So, yeah.
So it's gone.
Anyway, so we will also be covering at some point pretty soon the long pieces of feedback that we couldn't cover during the season. We'll still get to that. We want to get to more of a semi-regular recording pattern, get us ready for Card when that comes, because we've got those long pieces of feedback we still haven't done an episode on. We haven't forgotten about them, but we just haven't recorded anything on them either. So, all right. So until next time, I'm Brian.
And I'm Ruthie.
Peace and long life.
Live long and prosper.